Hello and welcome to the Sports Doin with me Kushag, and we have Vijay and Sushil here for another edition of the Sports Doin podcast where we talk all things European football. And before we start, I think it would be very apt if Sushil could carry this one on. We'd just like to pay our respects to Gerard Houllier, who passed away today at the age of 73, the former Liverpool manager. Sushil, if you could, if you could just tell our
Sure,
viewers
sure.
about
Yeah, yeah,
what he meant to the Liverpool fans, and because he is some sort of a cult figure, isn't it? At
yeah.
Liverpool.
I think so. Obviously, Houllier was coaching the team before I started following Liverpool, but you can see strands of his influence at the club, even into Benitez's tenure, and you see that come out when you see people like Gerard, Carragher, and all of the players he sort of brought through, praise him and say what a big influence he was on their lives. And their careers. I think, overall, if you think about the point of time when Houllier took over at the club, Liverpool were going through a really dry patch in terms of trophies. And we had the season where, Michael Owen was excellent and we won
Yeah,
three trophies.
wasn't he one of the major driving forces behind Michael Owen's insane
Exactly,
runs for
exactly.
those three
Yeah,
four seasons?
yeah. And I think a lot of the progress that Gerard, because remember the season we won the Champions League was actually Benitez's first, right?
Yes.
So a lot of Holier's influence was on that team. And so I think overall, the general sentiment among the fan base is the same. There's a lot of respect for the guy. Obviously, it's tragic. I think 73 is still fairly young. So my condolences to him and his family, and obviously respect from all of the Liverpool fan base to what he's done for the club.
Yes, of course, and the much revered man in French football as well.
Yeah.
He was quite popular with the French players. I remember watching Nicolas Anelka's documentary when he talks about his move to Liverpool. Talks about Gerard Houllier being the primary influence for him, primary like deciding factor for him to move to Anfield, and he actually called his 1 year at Anfield as one of the best years of his career, and he called that.
He's got a lot of years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he called that as one of his best years of his career, and he says he almost never felt any regret at leaving a club, and the only club he regretted leaving was Liverpool. So, and the only club he regretted leaving was manager he regretted leaving was Houllier, who probably by the end of it, I think Houllier was looking more towards the Senegalese forward El Hadji Diouf
Right.
and Emile Heskey from Birmingham at that time. Therefore, Nicholas Anelka probably lost out. But yes, from the sports toy and from all of us, condolences to him, his family, and his friends, and to the entire Liverpool fraternity, and to the French football fraternity. The massive man, and may his soul rest in peace. He'll always be fondly remembered, as you said, for that magical season when he won you the treble, the Liverpool version of treble. I mean, I don't want to be that guy today on such a somber day, but a fantastic achievement. It's incredible to at any level to win three trophies in a season. It's quite incredulous, and to do it at the top level is unbelievable. We'll move on from now. Another important event, or another important footballing event today that took place was the Champions League draw, and I'll read out the draw for our viewers. Liverpool take on Porto. That I feel was probably one of the best
I
draws.
think Leipzig. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Liverpool take on Leo. Yes, Liverpool take on
That's fine. That's
Leipzig.
fine. They're one on top of
Uh,
the other.
yes. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, as ever, the curse of lack of professionalism has struck me. I'll move on. I was reading it all wrong. I'll start once again. Munchen Gladbach take on Man City. For once, Man City haven't drawn the easiest team in the pool, and Munchen Gladbach have actually been playing well. Though Marco Rosa has been linked with the managerial role at Dortmund, but let's see. Let's hope that he sees the season out, and he can give Pep more nightmares, and it'll be fun. Lazio take on Bayern, one clear favorite there. Atletico versus Chelsea. Vijay, I'll circle back to you. I think we'll start with you there only. As Liverpool, as Sushil said earlier, Leipzig take on Liverpool, and if we move further down the list of the draw, Porto take on Juventus. Again, I would think Juventus are the clear favorites there. Barca versus PSG, it's the Neymar Messi show. Neymar sustained a
Again.
horrible ankle injury last night against Lyon, and there were no fans in the stadium, so you could literally hear the crack in the ankle, and you could hear him weeping, and that's never nice. I've been there with ankle injuries, and Sushi has been there. I've seen it firsthand, the ankle injuries, I think, and vice versa with him as well. So, it's horrible, and we hope that he recovers as soon as possible and he's available for this match, because it will be quite a momentous occasion to see him and Messi against each other. When we come to the finishing part of the draw, we see that Sevilla take on Dortmund and Atalanta take on Real Madrid. Now, Sevilla Dortmund, I think it's still a bit up in the air, because Dortmund, even though talent-wise I would stick with Dortmund, but I don't know. They're so up and down. They just lost 1-5 at home against Stuttgart, so we don't know that. And Atlanta Madrid. So I'll come back to you, Vijay. What are your thoughts on the draw for Chelsea? Drawing Atletico Madrid, arguably one of the toughest teams, along with Bayern, along with Bayern, because you couldn't have drawn Liverpool or City. I don't consider PSG, Barca, or Juve, even though you can take the piss out of me because saying the PSG beat your team. I don't think they're a good team. They can be beaten very, very easily. Same thing with Juventus, same thing with Barcelona. But Atletico, if you just remove the loss at the weekend versus Real, they've been very, very good. And after a very long time, your team, Chelsea team, suffered a loss. So I know the match is still 2 months away. How do you see this, bro?
Well, given the style of play that Atletico perform with, I think the first thing I told my friend was, given this season and the fixture pile-up, I hope we have enough fit players to play the first leg, and then since it's Atletico, I know that we won't have enough fit players to play the second leg. So it's going to be really difficult, because right now Chelsea lost, and a good part of that against Everton was, I think, 3 of our wingers in our very deep squad were all injured. So I don't know how December is going to be, but this is the month where Chelsea usually have a voodoo kind of a dip in performance thing. Now to carry that forward to a 2-month Champions League game against an Atletico Madrid that are now second in the table, have Luis Suarez.
No. The top.
The top.
That is how well they're playing. Real, after winning, are still 3 points behind, and Atletico have a game on hand on Real. That's how good they've been this season.
Yeah. So I mean, they have the 4-4-2 that's super hard to break, and Chelsea have a 4-2-3-1 that's held together by Thiago Silva, Kante, and if either of those players aren't there, it's the Atletico show, I think, for us against Champions League.
All right.
I'm excited for what it could mean for our players, because these are still young players who need blooding.
Right.
So playing at a game in Atletico Madrid, that level of competition is definitely going to be good. And I think Simeone likes to use the word cojones, so we get ours tested. So that's a good opportunity for sure for Chelsea.
All right, Sushil, if you look at this match objectively, it's a perfect clash of styles. I think up until last year, you would have said that Chelsea can go toe to toe in terms of physicality, and not last year. I think up until the season prior to Lampard, you could have said that Chelsea can go, toe to toe in terms of physicality. They can go toe to toe in terms of being nasty, and especially under Conte, and not so much under Sarri. And they could, play Atletico at their own game. But if you're being honest, this season Atletico have evolved. They don't play the same rigid, style of 4-4. They still play 4-4-2, but it's a very fluid 4-4-2. And Joao Felix, for me, has been one of the best players in the world for the last 3-4 months. For me, he's the hands down the best player in the La Liga right now. And the numbers he's putting are embarrassing. The likes of Griezmann and Messi put together. So he's a fantastic talent. Again, you'll have Luis Suarez, who seems to have found a new breath of life. So, how do you think? Do you think Atletico can, push Chelsea around and maybe sort of, because you would still probably call it? Would you call it an upset if Atletico win, or it's just very evenly poised?
I think I agree with Vijay. I think Atletico definitely have the advantage in this game, not just because they have an experienced team. Vijay talked about Chelsea sort of blooding into the Champions League, but also because they have a really experienced coach, right? This is a man who's been to multiple Champions League finals. He knows how to get it done these days. And I think that's probably going to be the key advantage that he has over Lampard. For Lampard, this is all very new. And, the tactics that you deploy at this level of football are very different. And Lampard will come up to speed with that. But it's just, I think Atletico have an advantage. And all of the things that both of you have mentioned already about how well they've been doing all season. Their Champions League form surprisingly wasn't as good as their La Liga form. They did get battered by Bayern Munich the opening day, if I'm not wrong. So there's some doubts there, obviously, and certain things.
And they couldn't beat a second string Bayern team at home as well.
Yeah, so there is something to be, again, Bayern are the best.
Yeah, I think without doubt
that's acceptable.
They can't win it again, can they? Please, no.
I mean, we'll get to that. But
I honestly think it will be the safest bet amongst all these 16.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think they could put out 2 squads to win the Champions League.
I don't know about that, but yeah, overall, I think Atletico are definitely going to be favorites heading into this tie. The only thing that could work in Chelsea's favor, I feel, is if they sort of mesh all the attacking talent they have and are able to come up with an answer to break down the Atletico defense. But again, I think Atletico have faced harder teams and come out better. So we'll see. I think there's still 2 months to go, so we'll only find out when we get.
All right. And what about you, Sushil? How do you see Leipzig versus Liverpool? Because from personal experience with United playing them, again, United were the architects of their own downfall. Whereas Leipzig had clear issues that can be exploited. I'm pretty sure Jurgen Klopp is an intelligent and savvy enough manager to know that. While again, it just speaks volumes about Nagelsmann that he's lost Timo Werner, still almost next to the near top of the league in Germany. They're third, but I think they're just behind by like 1 or 2 points. I think the level on points with Bayern and just a point or two behind Bayer Leverkusen. So it's just amazing, Nagelsmann is fantastic, and I don't know if only United could coach him. I know he has a horrible sense of dressing, but how do you think? Do you think you guys will be able to undress his?
I think that's a sacrifice the club can make. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think with Leipzig, the key part is going to be. Because defensively, I don't think they're as solid as people presume. Nagelsmann has an excellent system going forward, but if you look at how they've been performing defensively, both in the Bundesliga and then in the Champions League, there's a lot to be said about whether they're good enough to be able to keep Liverpool's attack out. On the other hand, Liverpool have their own injury issues that now seem to bleed into the Champions League. So Jota's out till Feb. The backup left back Tsimikas is also out till Feb. So
Tsimikas got a training injury or what? Because I never really.
No, I think they were both in that in the game that they played, the Champions League group game they played. Both of them picked up injuries there. But coming back to the tie itself, I think you're right. Nagelsmann is an excellent coach. And if you remember how well Leipzig did last season as well, obviously it was a weird Champions League season. But they really showed up and did put in a great performance all the way up till they got knocked out. So I think overall it'll be interesting to see how well they manage to cope without Werner. I think offensively they're brilliant. And Liverpool without Van Dijk and Gomez will probably struggle on that front. But I think eventually it might become a matter of being able to outscore each other. That being said, the key for Liverpool to progress through, in my opinion, is making sure that Firmino stays fit all through, not just this tie, obviously, but the rest of the season, because he's generating a lot of the defensive output for the team. I think, fingers crossed. We'll talk about Liverpool later as well, but that would be my sort of assessment of Leipzig and Liverpool.
Vijay, also, sorry to cut you. Also, it would be very important for Fabinho to stay on his feet as well, right? Because not every referee would be that dumb to look at the monitor and not give that as a penalty, right?
I mean, I don't even know what to say
I don't have
because
words. Like I
yeah,
don't. It's unpardonable. What is it like? I don't get it.
like
Am I dumb? Am I speaking something
no,
like I
I
don't
think
get it?
you're Andre Marino's inner monologue right now. Like he's looking at the monitor and thinking to himself all of these things. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? But I, I mean, so it has to be the whole thing, right? Human error is always there, and this was just a case of it. And we are supposed to cut it down, supposed to make everybody annoyed by the cutting down. But yeah, this is
But
one time
VAR
I
did
feel
his
they got it
job.
wrong.
He asked him to go have a look.
I think
Yeah.
we're deviating just a little bit.
No,
But
it's
The
no,
we
we're
just
not.
moved on. We moved on from Champions League. We're coming to work.
okay, fair enough.
Because you're right, Sushil. Because we can discuss the Champions League fixtures to death, but the reality is that 2.5 months from now, we don't know what squads will be available for each manager. We don't know
Hmm.
where you guys will be in the table, where they'll be in the table domestically.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
So
Let's maybe
we,
talk about who do you think is going to take it away from Bayern.
Yeah.
I think
wow.
that's the one thing I'm interested in talking about two
Who do you
months
think? Who
ahead.
do you think, Vijay? Who do you think could do that?
The thing is, I'm so against Bayern that I just want somebody to do it. Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Um.
you know what? Another thing I feel with the
Mhm.
5 subs is just an unfair advantage in that sense. They've got so many good players. They can change 5 players, man.
Look
They
at
can
Sushil
change
get all
five
riled up. I think
players.
he's turning red. He's going to put a cap on now.
Yeah, but Sushil is
Okay,
a
okay.
is a Bayern fan.
So I was saving up this stuff for later when we were going to talk about the Premier League, but I'll bring it up now because I think it's highly relevant to what's happening in the Premier League and what was sort of what occurred over this last weekend.
Mhm.
What so
None of the
retarded, man?
none of the top six, none of the top
What?
six managed to get a win. Am I right?
Yes.
They drew or lost. And I was just
Okay. For our viewers, none of the traditional top six because Leicester did win.
yeah. So I was just looking at the number of games that the top six, traditional top six, have played when compared against the teams they were playing against. For example, Fulham and Crystal Palace over the last month both played 4 games. On the other hand, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Man City, and United by extension, and Chelsea,
And of course, Arsenal.
Arsenal, have played 7, right?
That's almost
Over the
double,
last
right?
month. Yeah, that's almost double. And besides this, so these 6 teams face a disadvantage in both competitions because they go in with fewer subs into the Premier League games after being tired in Europe, right? Because they have to play so many more games than their opponents. And then on the other hand, when they're playing in Europe, their opponents are also better rested, right? Bayern are better rested. Leipzig were definitely better rested than Manchester United in their game. And so there's a lot to be said. Obviously, the Premier League, the way it makes decisions is very different from
The other
the other.
leagues.
But there's a lot to be said about this season. What's likely to become a slugfest where teams are barely. I don't know who's going to come out on top at
In
the end of
December.
December.
Hmm.
But it's just going to be such you won't be surprised if the best players in the league all get injured and then you just sort of have crawl to the finish and someone just pips the other. So
So you're
um,
basically telling me that I should get ready to see Lingard as number 10.
likely, yeah.
Or you can think of it like this is the best time to be in one of those academies.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it,
mean,
it probably is. It probably is.
since you guys brought up the Liverpool game from earlier this week, but apart from the penalty, the other key thing that was maybe a talking point from the game
Hmm.
was how impressive Liverpool's youngsters were. There was this run that Curtis Jones made in the second half that was just insane. And even Nico Williams when he came on, I thought Salah and Trent were actually really poor in that game. It's just
Hmm.
tired legs, I'm sure, but the way the youngsters have sort of filled in for all of these injuries, I think it's the same case in other
So do you
teams.
think that's something that the lower league managers can speak for as to an excuse on why they don't want the 5 sub rule? You have
So,
such wonderful academy products filling in, doing good performances.
I think the thing to keep in mind
is my question also. Sorry to interrupt. My question is: there
go ahead.
isn't that level of a fixture disparity in the lower leagues, right? You all play all the
No, I
cups.
think
You all play all the leagues.
he means like Premier League, smaller
Acha,
teams.
the second half of the Premier
Sorry,
League.
my bad.
I thought you were talking about the Championship League one.
No.
Yeah, carry on, Suji. Sorry, my bad.
No, I mean, just to wrap up that point, what's going to end up happening, right, is I don't think any of the Champions League, or any of the English teams are going to do well in the Champions League for this precise reason. They play more games than Bundesliga. They play at a more intense pace than any of the other
Than anyone else, yeah.
Yeah. And as of now, injuries
They
have
play
got
the
out of
League Cup. They technically play more games than
the League Cup.
anyone in Europe.
Yeah, and honestly, this people don't understand the concept of it's not like you're tired one game and then you recharge your batteries and you're back. There's something called cumulative fatigue, right?
Yep.
Over time, there are these little little niggles that start becoming bigger and bigger problems. That's why Harry Kane had such a poor bunch of seasons the last 2 years, right?
Yeah, the
And
lockdown
I think
was
that's probably like
lockdown was a massive gift for Harry Kane.
Right. I mean, I wanted to ask Vijay, because I think Chelsea actually have the deepest squad in the Premier League in terms
The
of
Sevilla game was an example. Yeah, I saw that.
And so, since you guys have the most, you can say, leeway in terms of being able to rotate players, do you see this becoming a problem eventually, or you think you can ride it out?
No, because it's two teams. You will never mistake those two people or the depth versus. Okay, to simply put it, the quality of depth is vast from the A option and the B option. So you have Kante, who is integral, and you have Thiago Silva, who is the only difference in our defense from last season and this season. So last season,
and Mendy, I guess.
Yeah, actually Mendy as well. But yeah, so it's ridiculous to go from Chilwell to Emerson, from Thiago Silva to Christensen, from Kante to Jorginho. So I don't see, and this is like, if we have to use these players, it's going to be against Atletico and such, right? So it's injuries are just going to be, I think, the lower level teams, and I think you also brought up the stat that we haven't done well against the top half teams in general with our first team. So now if you say the B team has a better chance, I don't think so. So I think the injury crisis is for everybody, but like I said, the league is technically more competitive, and how slugfesty it is going to be in the next few months, it could be that in March we could be seeing a table led by Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see that Brendan Rodgers finally winning a title.
We believe again.
That would summarize 2022 to the T. Brendan Rodgers won the league. Fuck it, let's just go home.
Yeah,
that's
it wouldn't even feel like the Ranieri season. It would just feel like
Ranieri. I was behind Leicester. This is I don't care, man. And I don't consider Leicester a small club anymore. I honestly don't want them to win anymore. I want them to lose.
They're like Tottenham were about 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. No, 10, 12 is too far back. They're like Tottenham under Poch. They're like Tottenham under Poch.
Anyway, let's move ahead.
Yeah, okay. So this is just a segue into this particular topic only. When Vijay talks about a slugfest in the league, we see a slugfest in almost every league. We talked about Atletico Madrid, right? Atletico Madrid at top of the Spanish league with 3 points, and they have a game in hand on Real Madrid as well, who are 2 games in hand.
On Real Sociedad.
Oh, 2 games in hand. It's just incredible. 2 games in hand over Real Sociedad. And if you look at Germany, you've got Leverkusen there at the top. If you go to France, if I'm not wrong, it's Lille at the top, right? And if you go to Italy, I know they're a big household name, but if you see the performances of the last decade, you would have never guessed it, but it's AC Milan at the top, and they're looking good. They're looking good with Zlatan and Pioli. So it's just a question to the two of you: is it accumulation of injuries, or is it accumulation of, because I also feel a lot of big clubs are at the end of their cycles with their players. A lot of big clubs are at Real Madrid, Barcelona, to an extent, you could say,
Juventus.
Manchester City, Juventus, and also maybe if you want to really stretch it, you could say PSG somewhat are
Yeah.
at the fag end of either in terms of age or in terms of the player looking to leave, someone like an Mbappe and Neymar. So all of these things cumulatively, plus the ruckus that's going on in Dortmund, they've just fired Lucien Favre. How do you see this, guys? I mean, do you think we'll have like crazy ass champions this season, and it will be one for the ages when you've got the underdogs? Like when underdogs will become the mainstream sort of thing, and it'll sort of become boring that the underdog keep winning. Vijay, you can start, and Sushil, you carry the on.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see every underdog going and winning the league. No, I think those big teams are big for more than just the fact that they have bigger squad players. But I think it has a lot to do with mentality, which is fundamentally, I think, in the beginning of the season, I told that's the main reason why Liverpool are still favorites. The mentality of a big club doesn't go unless you're Arsenal. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Yeah, I think, especially in the Premier League, is going to be competitive. But in leagues like, let's say, France and, well, yeah, no, I think you have a good point there when it comes to the end of the cycles of teams like Madrid and Barca. But can you look at it together for all of these leagues? I don't think so. I think they are, uh, what do you say, nuanced issues that each of these teams are going. If you look at Barca, their club has been running like
I mean,
America. Yeah, sorry.
this season's a write-off for Barcelona, right?
Yeah,
Completely
exactly.
a write-off.
Just like Messi?
Yeah, because of Messi, right? They should have let him leave
Yeah,
in
let
this.
it die.
I think if it weren't for COVID, he would have left, maybe. The key issue at both Barcelona and Juventus is you have two aging stars, absolute stars, best in the world, best in history. But they're definitely past their peak, and they still
The
command.
teams around them are not. The team around them is
Exactly.
just not good
No, so,
enough.
so that was
They
going to
can
be my
win. They
point.
can win with them, but the support
No,
cast is
the
not good
point
enough.
is with Ronaldo and Messi, they were always good enough for you to be able to put certain pieces around, and that's enough, right? That's how they've won over the last decade and a half. Now the issue is you have them on the same wages as you had them 5 years ago when they were the best players in the world, and everyone that they depended on around them is also old and not as effective. And so you have these squads built on really high wage structures that are not as effective as they used to be 4 or 5 seasons ago, right? And so you're right, there is a rebuilding that's going to be necessitated at Barcelona, Juventus. I thought Real were actually smart about getting rid of Ronaldo when they did. And unfortunately, I don't think they invested their money very intelligently. I think it's the
Yeah,
same
I
mistake
mean,
that Barcelona
typical
made.
Real things.
Yeah. And I think that's talking about these guys. About PSG is actually interesting because whenever anyone mentions PSG, there are just two names that pop up in your head, which is Neymar and Kylian Mbappe. But there's not a lot of focus around all the players around them, right? Who are not necessarily as good as they used to be. And also how Tuchel sort of becomes stale at the club overall. If you listen to
Yeah,
Julian,
and
yeah,
Tuchel's stock has really fallen.
yeah. And I think this is going to be his last season regardless. He's a great coach and he'll do really well wherever he goes next. But I think at PSG he's done. Which leaves us, your original question was who are the favorites? That leaves us with Bayern and the English teams. The English
No.
teams, I think the way it can play out is kind of interesting. If you have someone like Manchester City, Liverpool, United are already out, so that leaves Chelsea, City, and Liverpool.
Thursday nights for
Chelsea,
us. Thursdays. Yeah,
uh,
you minions. Look at Tuesdays and Wednesdays. The real shit is on Thursdays, and it's really shit. So yeah.
I think what's going to determine how these guys prioritize the Champions League is what we were talking about earlier about it becoming a slugfest.
Mm-hmm.
If you reach like April and everyone's still close to each other and everyone thinks they have a shot, they're just going to prioritize the Premier League over the Champions League.
For
On the other,
sure.
on the other hand, if Liverpool are out by like Feb or City are out by like Feb, they're just going to shift their focus onto the Champions League, assuming they're still around, late in the season. And that,
It's a different
unfortunately,
kind of accomplishment for a team to win that way, right?
yeah. And so that brings me to the last.
Something like what Chelsea did in 12-12, right? They
Yeah.
bunked off the league and just won the Champions League.
And so
screwed over Spurs once again.
So that brings me to Bayern. And my answer to your original question is, who's the favorites? It's Bayern again, for the simple reason that everything we discussed just now, I think the only practical option left is the team that won it last season and won it very handsomely. They've already beaten one of the bigger teams left in the competition, Atletico, 4-0. So I don't see why they'd have any issues, doing it all over again.
Yeah, and Vijay, you're saying something? Was it?
I think there's a highly likely chance that Upamecano is going to Bayern. Yeah, Upamecano is going to Bayern. So
I don't think they'll allow his activation of clause in January, because I think they'll seal the deal in Jan, but he'll still stick around till summer, and that's how Bayern do business. See, that's why they're the best run club in the world. I mean, it's beyond a doubt, because they've got like squad replacements for days, right? If I could just pick like 2-3 players from the bench, I'd be so happy.
Looking at their club is like looking at a German engineered machine.
Looking at their club just makes you want to turn around and just like shoot everyone in your club. Right? It's useless, absolutely useless. But yeah, Bayern Munich. I mean, massive kudos to Rummenigge, and I don't know if Uli Hoeneß is still there. It's Oliver Kahn. I think Rummenigge and Uli Hoeneß have left, right? Yeah. So massive. Yeah, massive plaudits to them.
So if last season we had Leon, then who do you think is going to be that? Yeah. I think that's more of a question we can ask right now than who's going to win the league.
If either of Leipzig or Gladbach win their tie against Liverpool or City, I think they'll be the dark horses.
I think if Leipzig can beat Liverpool, they can reach the final, because the boost that will give.
So too. And I think the other team that's going to be interesting because of who they're playing in this round is Sevilla.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, they'll be interesting.
I don't know, Sushil. Sevilla somehow always flattered to deceive in the Champions League. They're like the masters of the Europa League, but like Champions League quarters are their limit. Like them, like extreme limit. I remember they lost to Leicester as well in the round of 16 when Leicester came to the Champions League the year after their win. So yeah, guys, we can. I think we can move on from the Champions League. The Europa League draw also happened, but as the host and as the guy who decides the script, I'll take this arbitrary decision not discuss Europa League. I've had enough trauma for one whole week. I don't want to increase it with the Europa League discussion.
I did have a question for you regarding that. Do you see any value in Ole prioritizing the Europa League at all, or do you think he should just focus on the Premier?
Bin it.
Yeah.
Bin it. No point.
I think you could have stopped your question at Ole.
Do you see a point in Ole? So you want to talk about the United? We can definitely.
No. Fair enough. Answer Sushil's question.
Wow. What a quick turnaround. Yeah, you guys are absolute assholes.
This is the one episode we have only one Manchester United fan. We need to make it count.
Okay. In that spirit, let's move on. I wanna take a look at a couple of key results over the weekend in the Premier League, and just discuss a few finer points with you. I think I don't want us to go into depths with each match. I think we can take a collection of matches and discuss them cumulatively. So if you look at how the teams played, especially I was just checking the record of teams after playing Champions League or Europa League for that matter.
Yeah.
Again, you talk about Sushil talk about prioritizing the Europa League. Why I say United should win it, or for that matter, if Spurs are really interested in winning the title and if they can secure a top 4 spot. For me, if Spurs, we'll come to this match at the end towards the end of the podcast. The match amongst the two best teams in the Premier League at this point, Spurs versus Liverpool. If they can beat Liverpool, and if they can have like a 6 to 7 point advantage heading into the next year, I think that is what Mourinho thrives on, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I think what he'll do is he'll play second spot in the Europa League, and he will win that off because he will ensure that his top players, Kane, Son, and Reguilon. How impressive is that man? Reguilon, oh my god! If only we, I mean, wow! I don't understand why Real Madrid sold him, especially with Ferland Mendy.
There's a buyback, right?
But why sell him in the first place? Like he clearly is better than Mendy, and Marcelo is just finished. And you know what's funny? They've sold Theo Hernandez and Reguilon in consecutive seasons. It's just unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And the way Theo Hernandez is playing for AC Milan, I mean, we can talk about that. AC Milan versus Parma, I saw an ESPN FC spread, and the entire spread, they only talked about Theo Hernandez. That's how good he was. He was the reason they drew that match. Just to all Milan were down to them. And he's been a revelation. I think he's the most attacking left back along with Angelino in Europe right now. And so, okay, moving on from the point, we saw some results in the Premier League that we perhaps wouldn't have guessed. And Liverpool dropping points versus Fulham. Considering their away record has been so incredibly poor, it may not come as a massive surprise for all. But still, you expect Liverpool to go to Fulham and turn them over. It's quite an interesting line. Jurgen Klopp throughout. Fulham play beautiful football just like their manager, right? Good-looking football just like their manager, something like on those lines. And I was like, yeah, Scotty Parker would take that. He'd more likely take 3 points if he could, but he'd probably, he would have not expected even a single point there. If you move on beyond that, we saw Man City versus Manchester United, the Manchester Derby or the Worcester Derby, whatever you want to call it. It was a snooze fest. I mean, I don't know how I stayed up for that. It was really painful. It's a nil all. Then we move on to that. Chelsea lost their first match in 9 Premier League.
This is the first time I've been asked such a question on this podcast since Liverpool, and it feels really good.
I don't think that was that. I think you guys were very unlucky. I think you guys at least deserved the goal. But as a rare thing happened, Jordan Pickford was stupendous. How often do we say that?
I think we stop at stoop. Yeah. No, I just want to yes, we were tired. Yes, we lost. Everton defended great. But I just want to say one thing. There was this moment at the end of the game when we lost. I think maybe out of 11, 10 or 9 Chelsea players were on their knees after they lost. And I just like seeing that squad sort of unity in terms of feeling losing their winning streak. I think that's something that I think I count to building a squad for the future. And that's something I like this Lampard's boys generation of Chelsea team. Yeah.
All right. And I think, they were definitely unlucky there. So, Sushil, just a word from you on the Fulham Liverpool game. If you ask for my thoughts, I think I thought you guys should have lost. It's the reverse for Chelsea versus Everton for me here, because I think you were very bad in the first half. I think you were very poor in the first half, and as you mentioned earlier, Salah and Trent weren't really that impressive in the match. Even though I think Salah scored the penalty, right? That Fabinho decision by Andre Marina, I mean, oh God, what is happening there?
I don't want to get bogged down on the VAR stuff.
But overall, just as a performance from Liverpool, because you've lost Matip as well, right? Joel Matip was the sacrificial lamb this time.
Yeah. Joel
How long?
And,
I think it's just a back spasm, right?
Yeah, so
that's a week, 2 weeks max.
Yeah, I think so.
There was a moment earlier in the podcast where you mentioned Tsitsipas is, not going to. He's injured, right?
Tsimikas,
sorry, Tsitsipas. And then he was. He asked why I didn't know about that injury, and I thought you were going to reply, no, it's how we do it now. We just choose a guy. He's going to get injured before the game. We decided.
Man, this is stupid, right?
Has anyone seen Ramanand Sagar's Mahabharata?
No.
Okay. Is anyone aware of the concept of Mahabharata? The game Shakuni played for the game of dice. It's literally what Liverpool are doing. Klopp is like Shakuni throwing the dice and whichever number comes in.
I'll tell you why this is
That's the
happening.
guy.
I'll tell you what's the main reason, and I'm sure everyone knows this because the same thing happened at Dortmund after a couple of seasons of just being good or great.
I think you need
What
to
tends
refresh your squad. Yeah, you really do need to refresh.
No, it's not about refreshing the squad. It's just that think about everything that's gone wrong this season, right? Teams didn't have um, uh, preseason, right? You are playing so many fixtures in less amount of time, right? And besides that, you to compound everything, you had a lockdown period where, although people were sort of maintaining their fitness, right? It deviates from what they typically do. The season to season is more or less set. So what that results in is, in Klopp's case, because his teams prefer to play with a lot more intensity, with a lot more physical uh, effort. That's purely the reason why these injuries are happening, and that's why people mock him a lot for lashing out over things like when the fixtures are being played and the substitutions and this and that. One criticism I've had of Jurgen Klopp is, even when he does have the substitutions, he doesn't usually make it. The reason he gives is that I don't know when my players are going to get injured, so I don't want to substitute anyone till like the 80th minute when I know people are going to see the game out, which is valid. Um, but the broader point is, with Fulham, I think that exhaustion is just sort of catching up with them. And looking at the performance of the other big teams, I think it's catching up with them as well. Tottenham should have won comfortably. I know Crystal Palace has a harder game than Fulham, but I think they've been in excellent form. I don't see why they shouldn't have won. Chelsea lost to Everton, and Everton have been good this season. But if you look at their run of fixtures before this, they haven't really been, tearing it apart. And obviously, like you said, City and United, we'll talk about it, but it was an absolute snooze fest. So I think just across the board, all of these teams that have been playing in Europe, right, are just exhausted. They're done, and we haven't even gotten into the meat of the fixtures in December. So I don't see how this is going to play out over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think they're going to be a raft of injuries across all of these big teams.
All right. With injuries and with the incredibly difficult situations for all the managers, you're constantly managing your squad, constantly trying to predict which player. I think their development, they're depending a lot more on their data analysts and their medical experts. I think medical analysts as well, who are actually trying to understand when the player is in his peak phase or when he's susceptible to injuries. That all of that is going on, but let's not forget there is a lot of mental strain as well, isn't it, Vijay? You're playing in the times of COVID, this constant testing. There are the, I heard Frank Leboeuf say something, and he talked about Lyon versus PSG, and he was quite pissed off, right? He was pissed off because, and I saw that with Harry Maguire and John Stones as well, hugging as if they're long lost brothers that are who met at a Kumbh Mela.
That was so pathetic. Like I swear.
That was, it just blew my top off, and I understand what Roy Keane says. I understand what Gary Neville was saying, and I also like your thoughts on Paul Pogba and all that mess that is. I don't want to talk about the performances of Manchester United. I want to talk about not Harry Maguire in particular, but I want to talk about how big fixtures don't really mean like big fixtures anymore. It's just a game. That's what Leboeuf said. Leboeuf said, players were smiling, shaking hands, and being all pally. It was Lyon versus PSG. It's one of the fiercest rivalries in France. Since 2007, Lyon had not won at Parc de France. It was 14 years almost, and yesterday was the first win in 13 years. At the Parc de France. That's a long time coming in. Do you think at the edge towards rivalries and towards big matches has been taken off substantially? Because even Real versus Atletico was quite meh in terms of you would expect Atletico, if they're going down, you'd expect them to go fighting down, right? Someone in someone's face trying to get a red card or trying to provoke the reaction or something like that. But no, it was just bland.
Vijay, you go first.
Vijay.
I mean, I shudder to think that imagine that's somebody's first Manchester derby that they saw, and you know what was the impression that they'd get, right?
Two very mediocre teams just played out a draw.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't even a sense of a derby. Like it's like Chelsea Fulham. You don't really feel that.
They were just a total of 2 yellow cards in the Manchester derby, one for each captain.
I mean, I won't use yellow cards as a proxy for.
No, I'm just saying. If you look at a cumulative number of tackles made, that's also incredibly low.
And I think you brought up the mental fitness point before this, and I think that's now changed my opinion. Because do you think players are just like they're just trying to do their job as much as they
Yeah.
can, as best as they can, and
We should
you
be
know that
grateful. We should be grateful to them, Vijay. In such tough
the
times, they're giving us entertainment.
and the emotional toll. I don't know. It's a funny thing because when you think about it, these guys are humans too, and they are playing in these intricate, complex systems of football, trying to come up to their own past expectations. Like, look at City, right? That team. I think we're looking at Kevin De Bruyne now, and he's not Kevin De Bruyne, right?
Yeah.
And these players are changing, and I think a lot of them have had COVID-19 and are still playing now, but we still expect them to be world class. I mean, you say Salah was poor. He had COVID like a month back.
Right.
It is
COVID, he almost
unfair.
died.
Yeah.
And,
It's
and,
unfair
and,
on
and
us, right?
almost-
yeah, I mean,
No,
I think,
it is a deadly disease, though. You have to admit that.
yeah, and we don't
And
still know how it affects your body.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to just look at how it affects players, you should see Mane. Mane's had the poorest run of fixtures in his Liverpool career since he came back from COVID.
Yeah, I agree. It took Paul Pogba, and I think that's a good segue, right? It took Paul Pogba almost 2 months of
Right.
playing football to reach some sort of a level which he's shown in the last 2 weeks.
Havertz was
And
on the right for the Everton game. The vitriol of Chelsea fans losing 1-0, blaming it on Havertz as a flop for 78 million, it's ridiculous.
isn't it is stupid? Like, so he's what, a 19, 20-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Ah, you're picking on a kid, you're bullying somebody for having COVID and not playing world class football.
What?
God.
Come on, man. I mean, see,
But-
this is where the fans often lose me, right? This is where the fans often lose me. And Sushil, please carry on.
Yeah, I mean, your original point about, we were talking about rivalries, I guess.
Yeah, and I think so. I was kind of saying, like, do they matter when this is, the reality? And that's
Which
what
is
I
a
was
fair
trying
point.
to say.
But
yeah.
I think actually the trend that, Roy Keane and I guess Kushagra's also highlighted today, that's been going on for the last,
5 years?
last couple of seasons. Yeah. The only games that I remembered as like really rivalry matches is the year that we lost the Champions League final, those games against Manchester City. Like, those are the games where I felt like, man, we're playing against rivals and this has to be, we have to win this.
I remember when you guys matched up the City bus. Lovely
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, that's where we were, right? And now, I don't even know, Liverpool and City haven't played this season, right?
It was a draw. It was a drab 0-0, bro.
Yeah, exactly. So
At the Etihad.
it doesn't even
It's
register.
moved from the memory, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just hope to God Liverpool United has some semblance of fight.
But
I hope Harry Maguire is not, cuddling with Nat Phillips and giving a kiss to Roberto Firmino and then, shaking Klopp's hand and then taking off his United top and saying, hey, United Liverpool always together, some bullshit like that.
One thing I will push back against, I think City and United isn't as fierce a rivalry as a lot of others. If that happened,
is it a rivalry?
It is a rivalry because they're City rivals and because City have sort of been dominating.
It's been relevant for 10 years. 10 years,
which is fine. That's more time than a lot of the modern day fans have been watching football. So for them, Manchester City have always been a big club. And so I think overall the point Roy Keane is making, he also lives in a different era, right? We don't do season-ending tackles anymore, unless we're Jordan.
Except unless
we're stupendous.
But that's the point.
Unless you're stupendous. Or unless it's
The-
Neymar and you just want to kill him anyway, right? Yesterday, that's what happened. Pedro Mendes.
One of the reasons, and just to wrap up this point, one of the reasons why I think this rivalry thing is really toned down over the last 5 years is what Kushagra suggested. I think a lot of it was actually driven by the managers. When you had Ferguson and Wenger and Mourinho there,
Even
right? Even
Benitez.
Benitez, I think Benitez to a less extent because he was not there for that. But I feel
For that matter, just sorry to cut you off. For that matter, I felt Mark Hughes was a very combustible character.
Yeah,
He was a very fiery character. Alan
Correct.
Pardew had scraps on the touchline.
Exactly.
You know, Big Sam came out with statements, and you know these guys were at each other's throats.
And think about it, Liverpool and Manchester City, right? For the last 2 seasons, I mean, last season was not as fierce, but the season before that, right? There was a 1 point difference between them, and literally one of the goals was about to go in the derby. The point is, the level of hatred you expect Klopp and Guardiola to have for each other is just non-existent. Like,
I don't like it, you know. Honestly, I don't like it.
It's too respectful. After every game, they're just like, oh, they were great. They have a brilliant team, and you know, as much as you know, it's nice, it's civil. You want that to be that fight in football.
Yeah.
Like the Kushagra and I have been watching football together for what 12, 13 years now.
14, 15 years now.
Yeah, and you know the best parts of watching derbies together was being able to rub it into the other person's face afterwards, and that just doesn't exist anymore. Like the Liverpool game where Torres owned Vidic. Like I still remember us watching that game together
because it mattered, right? Like even for that matter, I know it's more relevant for you guys that game when Gerard scored like a couple of penalties, almost got a hat trick of pens, right? At Old Trafford, and then he kisses the camera and all. That's an iconic moment.
Same game, by the way.
And that on the flip side, that Gary Neville when the crest was at the center, showing the crest to the Liverpool fans at the away end of Old Trafford, and them throwing missiles at him. You know, that mattered. Now it's just.
Wait, so I think that you bring up something quite important. Fans.
Yeah. That is there. I think that is there.
I'm just saying. I think you guys are pining for WWE, but there are no fans for the guys to rev up. Yeah.
So it's just basically kids in a bouncy castle now, right now, is it?
Yeah, Stone Cold just drinking beers in a ring.
A lot of
nobody watching with him.
A lot of people, rail on Liverpool fans for what they did to the Man City pass, but I fucking loved it. I was like, this is what's been missing.
As long as they don't hurt a player or a staff member,
that's not what ended up happening.
It's fine.
As long as they don't just attempt to kill him, not kill him real.
Because that was a bit much. Maybe the guy could have gone for the headlamps or something like that. You go for the windows with a stone. You don't know.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about throwing projectiles at the bus, but just the welcome for the bus. Overall, the fans lined up welcome.
Yeah, that red mist that it came through was incredible. That was a sight. And
fans.
Fans. And talking about fans, I think we can get into the second last topic of our discussion here, and we'll end it with, of course, the match of even though it's on a Thursday, it's probably the match of the week. Probably one of the matches of the season up until now. Is it Liverpool hosting Spurs, or is it Spurs hosting Liverpool?
Yeah,
Liverpool hosting Spurs. Yeah. Oh, okay. Before that, we talked about fans, we talked about mental pressure, we talked about players having to work in extremely difficult circumstances. But how is it justified that the agent of a player who is extremely important to a club comes out before an extremely important match, which is going to decide your Champions League fate, and says that his story with the club has ended. His time with the club has ended. The club has not been able to use him properly. Otherwise, Solskjaer is a decent guy, but he's not a good enough manager. He makes wrong decisions. In effect, almost calling him stupid and without football knowledge. My just personal, I know you guys can carry it on. You can tell me what you feel of Pogba, but I just like this forum to publicly address Mino Raiola. Mino, I won't body shame you because I don't want to do that. But Mino, what do you know about football? Seriously, what have you really done? I have read about you now. You started out as a pizza chain owner in Italy. Then you moved to Switzerland.
He looks like one too.
Then you moved to Switzerland. opened another pizzeria. From there, he got into contact with a few young Swiss players playing the Swiss Jupiler. I think Jupiler is Belgium. I'm not sure what league it's the Swiss league for that matter.
Yeah.
Got a few got a few players on trials here and there. Savvy enough to get clients. His breakthrough essentially came with a Scandinavian player called Zlatan. And since then he's ruled the roost. He is the guy you go to if you want to move at least 5-6 times in your career and have a massive pay packet, which I'm pretty sure Haaland will have. But he is such a massively destabilizing force in a club. He is disrespectful to the T. He has absolutely no. What is he? He's essentially a tick. He's a flea who's sucking blood, essentially blood money, out from clubs or players. You know how much he got from Paul Pogba's transfer to Manchester United? 24 million pounds. 24 million pounds went into the pockets of Mr. Mino Raiola. How is that justified? And after that, to have the gall and come out and say in public. Now, he doesn't do it unless his client gives the permission. I'd just like your opinion on what Paul Pogba has done, because I read an article by Ian Ladyman today, and he said Raiola wasn't wrong. Manchester United have had Paul Pogba 4.5 years, and they've done nothing with him. Is it Manchester United's fault that he can't play 2 good games in a row? Is it Manchester United's fault that he cannot fit into a 4-3-3, cannot fit into a 4-2-3-1, cannot fit into a 4-1-3-2, cannot fit into a 4-3-1-2, cannot fit into a 4-3-2-1? I mean, whatever formation you want to play, he doesn't fit. Who's to blame? Sushil.
One second, Kushagar, just check. I think Anurag and Prathamesh are trying to join the call.
No, I mean, honestly, I felt insulted.
They heard your...
I felt even more insulted by the fact that he was given a place in the lineup, even if it was a sub towards Leipzig, and that he started the goddamn derby. I would have happily lost both those games. I don't want that man ever pulling on the shirt.
I'll tell you what it is with Raiola, right? If you think about the other sort of super agents around the world, you never hear about them. You never hear about Jorge Mendes. You never hear about...
He doesn't run his mouth.
Yeah.
Even Kia Jorabchia, something like that.
Yeah. He never runs his mouth. And so with Raiola, I think it's a different approach to how he deals with teams and with clients. He obviously thinks being this way helps him get a better deal for his client or get his client what he wants. At the end of the day, I can assure you, right? Someone like Raiola would not do something like that without the express instruction of the player, right?
Of course.
And so then the question is no longer about Mino Raiola, right? There's a reason why players like Haaland, like Pogba, like Zlatan,
even Lukaku earlier. Lukaku is now with Rock Nation, but earlier he was with
exactly. And
Raiola.
Think about the other players like Pavel Nedved. Do you think Pavel Nedved would have this guy as his agent if he wasn't a good agent? He's a great agent and probably one of the best in the world. But that being said, I was coming to the point about Pogba. Eventually, this whole situation is Paul Pogba, right?
Yes.
He's a player who's been at this club for 4 or 5 seasons now?
4.5 years.
Right. He came in
Okay, 4.5 years, and let's not forget from 15 to 20.
Right. And he's the kind of player who was supposed to transform the club, right? He was supposed to be the guy who would, put things in order, take Manchester United back.
Around whom the team would be built.
Correct. And it's not like he's not had the managers to be able to do that. Jose Mourinho was an excellent manager. Louis van Gaal, whatever you say about...
He came
in
one of the
after.
first signings of Jose.
Okay. So coming back to the point, it's only the last season or two where he's been under Ole the entire season. And they've not played badly per se. They finished 3rd last season, qualified for the Champions League. There is something to be said about his teammates, right? A lot of people say he doesn't have Kante with him in defensive midfield. There's only, that's not... There's
only one N'Golo Kante, isn't it?
Yeah. Messi never says, I have these shit players. I mean, now he does. But I guess a lot of players throughout the peak of their careers, right? They're the ones driving it through.
I never heard him say
Steven
that at
Gerrard
27,
was one of the
28.
best. Yeah, and Steven Gerrard was the best player or the best midfielder in the Premier League for an extended period of time, despite having players who were maybe not at the same level or even close to that. And he stuck around and he was the difference maker in a lot of those seasons and a lot of those games. He was the
Lampard
person.
did that for Chelsea in a couple of seasons.
But Lampard, I think, had a better squad around him.
Yes, for
right?
sure, for sure.
But there are millions of examples, right? You can look at Dennis Bergkamp before the whole Arsene Wenger phase. You can look at a lot of players. Fact of the matter is, Paul Pogba was supposed to be the guy, right, who was going to take Manchester United up a notch to be able to attract players who want to come play there. And Lukaku came there. There are a lot of really good players who joined the club. And Pogba was not the driving force behind them. I know it's unrealistic to expect one player to change everything, but he definitely didn't help that situation. And so it's sort of deserved that he wants out now, right? How old is he? 27, 28?
28.
Yeah,
This 28 next year, I think.
So he has 3-4 good seasons left in him. This is probably going to be the last, wherever he ends up going. I think he'll end up going to PSG. This will be the last sort of, 3 or 4 decent seasons he'll have, and then people will forget about Paul Pogba. He's in some ways wasted his career. You can say he's won the World Cup, but his club career has just been, underwhelming. All of the potential that was there.
Yeah. And Vijay, at this rate, he should have just stuck it around at,
exactly.
Juventus, right?
Yeah.
He should have just stayed at Juventus, won Scudetto year after year. Maybe with Cristiano, he might have actually had a shot at the Champions League.
I disagree. I think suppose he never went to Juventus, you would have seen a different Paul Pogba. You would have probably seen.
That wouldn't have happened because he always had Mino Raiola as his agent.
No, so I actually read the article about the agent who was the agent before him, who is still an agent now, and he essentially says Mino Raiola came between him and then his family and just poached him.
He poached him, yes.
So I think when his old agent put him in Old Trafford, said that your life is going to be made here, and Paul Pogba also said, I never want to leave this club. For a guy
Ferguson
to come,
told him, Ferguson told him, your time is here.
Yeah,
he gave him a
called Raiola a
18.
twat. Yeah, so I think in a way that Raiola came and changed his entire sphere, and now it's 8 years into that life that Raiola has seen for him, and now the next 4 years he gets to decide it with him again. But think of it this way, right? He went to Juve and he came back, but he came back with this whole narrative that I don't think Paul Pogba was. Like, I don't know. Paul Pogba was a guy who was good, who went, got better, now came back, and then whole Pog back. I remember the hashtag. I remember how excited my friends
I'm glad
were.
They stopped that shit.
That Stormzy, that Stormzy reveal still haunts me, man.
So just think of the weight that this guy had on him and the expectations, and then just think that they expected all of Ferguson, like, post Ferguson bullshit to just get over because Pogba's now in the house,
Yeah.
You can imagine that's kind of hard to play. But does that excuse the way that this, it's kind of the Omerta rule. You don't break it, and he's broken it right now, and this is a disciplinary action, and I'm pretty sure if any team wants stability, the only way is to get characters like this either in line or outside. And I think that's
I think the inline aspect is that ship is sailed for him. I think as a Manchester United fan, I'd like nothing more for him to, no ill will. Go enjoy your career, mate. Just leave us alone. I'd rather have a gaping hole in the middle of the midfield than have Paul Pogba. And frankly speaking, there'll be no gaping hole at United if Paul Pogba was to leave tomorrow as well. That is how much his stock has fallen at United.
Can I just one point before we move on from Paul Pogba? I think the fact that Bruno Fernandes has come in, right?
Imagine. I mean, I just don't even want to say 11 months. He's won 4 player of months.
I mean, forget all of that, right? Those are awards. I think you can see it in his performances. He's been here a fraction of the time, right? He has played much better with much less hype around him. There was I don't even know what sort of marketing spin you can put on Bruno coming to Manchester.
No, nothing. And his cost is 44 million, 44 extendable to 48.
Exactly. And he's playing in these last, what has he been here, in 9 months? He's played so much better than Pogba's played ever in his Manchester United career.
I don't think Pogba's had a 9-month spell at United ever.
And that's such.
Forget 9. He's not had a 5-month spell at United ever at any sort of that level.
That reflects so poorly on Manchester United's entire transfer strategy. They're finally becoming smarter about it and getting the right players. It's very, there are very few clubs that can really bring the best out of a player. And for you to be able to, especially players like Pogba who need that hype around them, um, I don't think he was ever going to be the guy who's going to take Manchester United to the next level. The players who took Liverpool to the next level were not
superstars.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the Coutinho sale, right?
And it was players who became better at the club. They were never expected to move the needle by themselves.
Like Mane, Salah, Firmino.
Yeah. And I'm glad. I mean, I'm not glad. I would have liked the show to go on for longer, but it's good that Manchester United are wisening up now, right? They're making the right decisions in the transfer market. Unfortunately, COVID and just going to mess up everyone's finances over the coming years. But just wanted to add that point about Bruno before we moved on.
I mean, Bruno's Happy Tree Friends. I don't know how many of you watched Happy Tree.
Yeah.
Happy Tree Friends. I don't. Yeah, you can see me blushing, right? Bruno's as Happy Tree Friends is a stupid cartoon sketch, quite graphic, just for anyone who wants to go and have a look. So there's often often this moniker they use. XYZ is love, XYZ is life. So it's essentially that is for Bruno, right? Bruno's love, Bruno's life. For Manchester United, I think he's the only player at the club, and if he doesn't have a good game like you saw last weekend, United don't really end up winning. Yeah, I've got one guy. You got 250 million pounds this summer. Fuck off. Okay, yeah. So coming back to you, Sushil, the fixture of the week, probably the fixture of the month. One of the standout fixtures of the season so far. Who would have thought it would be Liverpool entertaining Spurs, because Spurs have a horrible record at Anfield. Come on, not at the start of the season.
You can go back and check. I've been saying Spurs are going to be challenging for the title this season.
Yeah, you did. I thought you were just being kind to Karan.
No.
On the show that day. All right. So Liverpool versus Spurs, and Sushil, you'll probably disagree, but I think Spurs start as favorites.
I think they do start as favorites.
Because I think they're playing better than you guys, and you guys don't have any players, especially with
exactly. I think it's more of the latter than the former. But the thing that works in our favor is it's a home game, and our home form's actually been excellent.
But Sushil, just you can carry on with this.
Yeah.
It's the game for Mourinho. It's the game where you sit, choke, 2 counters, Harry Kane to Son to Harry Kane goal.
Yeah, I'm not. I'll tell you why I'm not as concerned about Mourinho's tactics in this particular game. I think one of the things actually that's regressed a little bit since Van Dijk's been injured is our ability to catch these counter-attacking teams offside, right?
So you guys play a little, you fall back behind a
little? No. I mean, earlier we used to play a high line, but we had the highest rate of offsides against, or for, I guess, in the Premier League for 2 straight seasons. This season we're still like second or third, but the point is those tactics we were really effective at nullifying. Obviously with Van Dijk gone, it's going to be difficult, and I think Spurs are probably going to be the toughest team we played this season overall. So in that sense, there is some hype around the way they've been playing. I'm not as concerned yet. Again, I have been bitten repeatedly on things I've said on this podcast, so I won't go on that route much longer. I think that the key concern for Liverpool, though, is going to be, the way they're going to sort of manage through these injuries. Jota has been the in-form attacking player this season, and he's out for 2 months. More importantly, he's out for this game. And
out of my FPL team as well. So
yeah, same here. So I think that's going to be the major concern. In midfield, I think we're finally getting some of those players back. Thiago should be back, not for this game, but Oxlade-Chamberlain's back. Naby Keita's back. I think Naby will start this game. We'll see. Depends on his fitness. But I think he is exactly, or Ox or Naby or Thiago is exactly the kind of player we were missing against Fulham. The kind of player who can, progress the ball.
Carry the ball?
carry the ball, pass the ball, anything to get it to the front.
Basically link the midfield to the attack. I felt like
exactly.
that was one of the
Exactly.
standout core things. And Jurgen Klopp's comments were quite standout. I can write the book for them, but I can't read it for them, right? Something on those lines, right?
Yeah. And so I think that'll be a boost for Liverpool. And hopefully Trent and Robertson are on top of the games because they'll need to be against this Tottenham attack. So overall, I think I don't know.
Is Doherty fit? Is Doherty fit? I
Sorry?
think
Yes?
Doherty is fit.
I think he is because they won't want Aurier starting on the right against Mane.
Against Mane, no.
But I think I'll tell you what. Normally, I'm pretty. I usually give you a prediction, but this game I'm genuinely a little, unsure of
On the
how it'll
fence.
go. Not just on the fence, I'm not. Liverpool have their home form, which is always excellent, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do what they did to Leicester and Wolves. Right? Everyone thought those would be hard games, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it turns out like the Manchester derby last week, and both managers are just happy with the 0-0. So
You can trust Joseph for that.
yeah, so I'm a little skeptical about picking a team. So I mean, that's all I have to say about this game. Uh, with half our squad injured, it's just a matter of putting 11 players on the pitch who can put in a shift, and that's pretty much it. We'll see what happens from there.
Yeah. So Vijay,
2-0 Spurs.
Of course.
I can assure you that will not happen.
Yeah, 2-0 Spurs. I don't know.
And if it does, you won't see me here next week.
Sulak said the same thing last week.
And he's not here.
Yeah.
He's not here.
He's
not here because this happened twice in the space of 1 week.
The doggy has diarrhea.
Yeah. Oh God. Yesterday, one of my friends, one of the guys who was often on the podcast, Srinivas, I had some work with him in the morning, and I called him up, and this was around 11, and this guy is like dead asleep. He's talking to me like that. I'm like, what happened, bro? He's like, bro, I was AFTV and chilling till 5:30. I'm like, bro, you're just a sadistic bastard.
Like a drug.
That's all you are. Yeah, it's like a drug, bro. It's sadist. Anyway, Vijay, so how do you see this game going on? Because if Spurs do beat Liverpool, that's a massive statement of intent, especially at the home of champions, and they've not lost their leg since since the sun started setting in the west or something like that at this point, right? So since forever. So I don't even remember the number of games. So,
Vijay will be interested to know that it's the second longest home unbeaten since Chelsea under Mourinho. Chelsea under Mourinho.
I think doesn't that make it even more interesting for Mourinho to go and actually do something?
It's his own record.
Take it away.
He's petty like that.
Yeah,
he is petty like
there's
that.
No like that. Petty. Full stop. Yeah.
Super petty.
No, I'm just saying, for Mourinho, this is a final, and Mourinho does not like to lose. And this is whatever narrative he has before or after the game. It's just so that he can win, and he sees the opportunity. And I think I told you this against Tottenham versus Arsenal as well. Like, Mourinho smells blood. He knows that this is not the Arsenal, and he knows this is not the Liverpool that everybody should fear. And I'm pretty sure in his transformation of Tottenham from, the all or nothing phase of, trying to be the actor for these people, now you can see that this squad actually has characters that are worth putting the camera on. And I think Harry Kane, Son, and Bergwijn, and who's Bergwijn, and I think one more person in the midfield, like Højbjerg. Oh, those guys are.
Højbjerg for me has been the signing of the season.
He has, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. These guys are. It's one of those. When you play Road Rash, you have those 10 players looking all badass and stuff. Like, it's a very threatening squad, and I see that they are definitely the stronger team in this tie. So I know 2-0 in Anfield is not the possibility, but I think for Mourinho, the game plan is to get that one goal, sit back, and then let them destroy the Liverpool confidence slowly, like they did once before.
All right, Sushil, your prediction, you still have to give one for us, bro.
I'll go with a 2-1 to Liverpool with the Salah
Yeah.
penalty and another bit of moaning about VAR from Kushal.
I just hope you earn that penalty and the Spurs guys don't get denied one. So yeah, Vijay, by same.
Yeah, 1-0 to Spurs. Just going to
Oh,
reduce my
he's half the score.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alright.
Because
I think
I brought up the whole record thing, right? So yeah.
yeah. I think this is a classic match in which both the managers would be more than happy to take a draw. And
I
if
hope not. We've been talking about lack of rivalries and stuff. I think
but
this might be.
But this is the trophy. This is the top
you're,
spot.
I think
you're talking about Klopp versus Jose in that sense, aren't you? Because
No,
it's
I'm
not
talking
really a
about Liverpool
rivalry
versus
between Spurs.
Spurs.
That's not a rivalry. Come on.
It's not a rivalry,
You
but
can't
I
just
think
pick up two
because
clubs with rivalry.
I think because of the nature of the way the season is shaping out, I think this will be one of the most important games this season.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And so I can see a draw. I can see a 1-1 draw or even a 0-0 for that matter.
Yeah.
If it's a 0-0, it's good. It's good for me. I've got two Liverpool defenders, so points there. Once again, thank you so much for joining me, boys. I did not even realize that the hour flew by. Almost touching an
I
hour
think you
now.
have more Liverpool defenders than Klopp does.
I just put in I just put in Nat Phillips. Did I put in Nat Phillips? Yes, I think I put in Nat Phillips because I expect him to start on the bench, and Robertson's there in the team, and I think there's one more guy I keep forgetting. But yeah, all in all, I think Thursday night's the night we're all waiting for eagerly now. And
Yep. Actually, Wednesday night, Thursday early morning. So.
Oh, all right. Wednesday night, Thursday early morning for us viewers in India. Thank you so much to Vijay and Sushil for joining me here. This was a fascinating chat, and to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Do let us know what your thoughts are on the injury situation, on the unfancied teams at the top of the table. Who do you think? Which particular league do you think we could see the biggest surprise in? For me, I don't know, something annoying at me. I think PSG finished third or fourth, and it's a bad season for them. And you get someone like Lille or Marseille winning the league or something like that. And of course,
Andre Villas-Boas.
Yeah, and of course you'd want anyone but Juventus to win, and it's boring, right? So, but I don't know. I still see them as favorites. Anyway, we'll have a look at this in the coming months as well. So once again, thank you so much, boys, and to the viewers. Please do like and subscribe the video, subscribe to the channel. Do share it around. Do let us know what your predictions are for the midweek and the weekend as well. And how did your team fare in the Champions League draw? If you are lucky enough to be in the Champions League, if it's the Europa League, I'll try to do a video for you guys. I don't want to. It's something I promised myself and the channel that I will not get involved with the Europa League if these guys drop down. And I'd hope that they finished fourth, not third. But well, you don't get what you want all the time. So yeah, thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. And keep it locked to the Sports Domain for all things about European football, Champions League, the Premier League, and all other leagues.